If you ever read Arundhati Roy's Booker Prize winning classic, The God of Small Things, you already know that she possesses one of the most distinct, breathtaking voices in modern literature. I have always had a deep, enduring love for Indian writers' prose. There is a specific way they handle language that feels rich, incredibly colorful, and deeply aromatic, almost like Indian food, where every single sentence is layered with distinctive spice, complex texture, and sensory depth. For decades, readers have wondered how much Roy's fiction was anchored in her real life. While now today, we finally have the answer. With her latest book, Mother Mary Comes to Me, Roy given us a memoir that pulls absolutely no punches. Written in the raw, immediate wake of her mother's death, this book is a work of fierce, unvarnished, and at times terrifyingly brutal honesty. At the absolute center of this whirlwind narrative is her mother, Mary Roy, and that to say their relationship was complicated is the understatement of the century. This isn't a warm, fuzzy book about maternal bonding, nor is it a simple tragedy about grief. Instead, it is a profound psychological study that forces us to look at the mother who is simultaneously a historical heroic liberator and a deeply volatile domestic tyrant. It is a book that shatters our comfortable definitions of morality. And today we are going to unpack exactly why this memoir is an absolute masterpiece of human complexity. To understand the gravity of this memoir, we first have to understand who Mary Roy actually was to India. She was a monumental, legendary figure. Mary Roy was a visionary educator and a fierce, uncompromising activist who dragged her own family all over the way to the Supreme Court of India. Her landmark legal victory single-handedly overturned the discriminatory inheritance laws that had kept millions of Syrian Christian women in the state of Kerala systemically disinherited and kept in poverty for generations. On paper, she is a feminist icon. Statues should have been built for her. But what about inside the walls of her own house? Arundhati Roy lays bare a completely different, darker reality. Roy shows us a mother who was fiercely unpredictable, emotionally volatile, and deeply cruel to her own children. Arundhati and her brother grew up enduring severe emotional and physical outbursts. Mary would routinely unleash vicious verbal attacks on her daughter, calling her a bitch, and constantly threatening to kick her out of her home, her car, and her life, leaving her completely unprotected. It was an environment of constant eggshell walking, so intense that Arundhati ended up running away from home at the age of 18. Arundhati Roy summarized this agonizing, lifelong paradox in a single perfect phrase. She calls her mother my shelter and my store. This forces the reader to sit with an uncomfortable truth. A person can be heroic, visionary champion for justice in the public square, whilst being a destructive, terrifying force behind closed doors. Now, a memoir deals with this level of childhood trauma could easily spiral into a heavy, suffocating bog of self-pity. But what makes Arundhati Roy's genius shine here is that the book is frequently darkly funny. She infuses the pain with a sharp, irreverent wit that provides the exact oxygen and relief the readers need to keep turning the page. There is a couple of paragraphs in the book that perfectly captured this, and it actually made me laugh out loud. So this is a conversation between the mother and the daughter. This happens when the mother was already old and frail, and she relies on her servant to bathe her every single day. So the mother says, "Would you like to watch your mother being bathed? Why don't you take a photograph?" The daughter replies, "Okay, I promise not to show it to anyone." The mother then said, "Then what is the point?" And here is another, when Arundhati describes a moment of intense emotional longing that universal childhood instinct to comfort a parent. She wrote, "I want to hug her and reassure her that everything would be okay, but you can't hug a porcupine." Think about how profound that metaphor is. It is the ultimate thesis statement for their entire relationship. It captures the tragedy of a daughter who genuinely loves her mother, but knows with absolute certainty that the moment she reaches out for closeness, she will be pierced by quills. The humor here isn't just used to deflect from the trauma or brush it under the rug. It is used as an intellectual shield. It's a way for Roy to distill a devastating, lifelong emotional stalemate into a sharp, unforgettable, and deeply relatable image. But this emotional stalemate didn't just affect Arundhati's view of her childhood. It completely wrote the script for her adult life too, especially when it comes to romance. If you look at Roy's biography, her relationship with her husbands and partners were never long-lasting. She always felt this overwhelming, non-negotiable need to be completely on her own. And when we read between the lines of this memoir, we realize that this driving need for absolute solitude was the direct result of her mother's fierce, thorny legacy. Think about the blueprint she was given. When Arundhati was a toddler, Mary Roy fled an abusive marriage, packed up her kids, and moved into a tiny cottage in Karana State. Mary had to fight tooth and nail against deeply patriarchal society just to exist. From her earliest years, Arundhati internalized a stark, heavy lesson: depending on a partner is inherently unsafe. For her mother Mary, independence wasn't just a lifestyle choice, it was a survival strategy. Worst still, because Mary was constantly fighting off family members who tried to evict her, young Arundhati grew up with this terrifying sense of spatial instability. She was routinely told by her mother during her rages that she was a burden, a millstone around her neck. When she grew up feeling that her home, her shelter, her security can be stripped away by the people who are supposed to love her the most, her brain adapts. She learned to rely strictly on herself. She finds refuge alone by the riverbanks, completely self-contained. Arundhati eventually runs away to Delhi at the age of 18, as we have mentioned, living for years off the grid. And even when she deeply loved the men in her life, she could never fully surround her boundaries to a traditional marriage or a shared home. To her, the ultimate luxury of financial independence wasn't wealth. It was simply of having a space of her own, a space from which nobody can ever tell her to move out. Her relationship with her partners didn't end because her lack of capacity to love. They ended because her childhood told her a fundamental truth: absolute solitude was the only guaranteed human freedom. This brings us to the real philosophical core of Mother Mary Comes to Me. This book dissuades us from pigeonholing human beings into our narrow, comfortable little boxes of morality. In our modern culture, especially online, we are completely obsessed with clean-cut narratives. We want people to be either entirely good or entirely bad. We want our heroes to be flawless saints in every aspect of their lives. If someone is a champion of women's rights, we expect them to be a perfectly nurturing and peaceful mother at home. But human nature completely refused to cooperate with those expectations. Mary Roy was both things at the exact same time. She was a terrifying mother and at the same time a heroic historical liberator. By refusing to sanitize her mother's memory, Arundhati Roy forces us to confront our own human complicity. She forces us to acknowledge human beings are deeply fragmented, contradictory creatures. We are capable of profound cruelties to the one closest to us, even whilst fighting for the liberation of strangers. To read this book is to realize that the empathy means looking at the person in their entirety, quills and all. without trying to smooth their sharp edges just to make ourselves feel comfortable. Ultimately, Mother Mary Comes to Me is not a comforting book, but is an essential one. When Mary Ray finally passes away at the end of the memoir, Arundhati felt completely blindsided by the staggering, overwhelming weight of her own grief. She realizes that even though her mother was a porcupine, her own identity was fundamentally forged from the dye-berries. You cannot easily untangle the shelter from the storm. If you want a simple biography with a neat moral lesson, pass this one on. But if you want to experience prose that is rich, vibrant, and aromatic, and a story that will actively expand your boundaries of human empathy, Mother Mary Comes to Me belongs at the very top of your reading list. But now I want to turn this over to you at the cafe. How do you handle a book that forces you to look at the dark, hypocritical, and complicated reality of human nature? Can someone be a great historical hero, a terrible parent at the same time? How do we judge that? Please let's keep the conversation incredibly honest, thoughtful, and above all, respectful. And guys, if you like this video, please share it with your friend, give it a thumb up, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps a small channel like mine to grow. And guys, that's the end of this review. I hope you liked it, and I shall see you in the next video. Cheerio.